Every exam I've taken in cybersecurity, I've passed on the first try. No guessing, no panic, no last minute cramming. Not because I'm naturally gifted, far from it, but because I follow a system, one that works. Because with the right system, passing isn't luck, it's inevitable. You can study for hours and still fail. Not because you didn't try, but because effort without direction leads nowhere. People don't fail because they're lazy, because they're exhausted and spinning in circles. Hard work doesn't matter if it goes in the wrong direction. 1 second they're grinding, the next they're Googling how to pass fast. 1 minute it's practice questions, then it's a random video, and it's someone's 10-step Reddit post with 18 different resources. Every scroll gives new advice, conflicting opinions, and now they're just second-guessing everything. It's information overload, no clarity, no retention, just noise. The input goes in, but it never sticks, because chaos doesn't build memory, systems do. They're doing everything and nothing that moves the needle. All this effort and no traction. I used to be the same way until I stopped chasing noise and built a system that actually works. So step 1 is starting with the official exam objectives. They're not just a checklist, they're the playbook. They tell you exactly what the exam creators want you to know. So instead of guessing, I break it down. What topics are weighted the heaviest, which areas overlap, and that's where I spend most of my time. Because if you understand the blueprint, you can control the outcome. Next, I hit Reddit, not to scroll, but to study what actually worked for people who passed. Step 3 is setting the exam date. Why? Because pressure creates focus. When you lock in a date, everything changes. Your mindset shifts from I'll try to I will. The date's set, now it's real. Step 4, I build a focused environment. Every detail matters. Focus starts with structure. I run a session on a 25-minute timer. That's how I train my brain to expect deep work and deliver it. Then I lock in the sound. I use Brain FM, not just music, but neural phase locking science. It literally tunes my brain into focus mode within minutes. And for clarity, nothing fancy. Just green tea and 0 distractions. Step 5 is applying science-based learning. Learning starts with structure, like a tree. I use mind maps and Cornell notes to branch ideas out, connect them, and make them stick. Then I go active. Feynman technique, ChatGPT quizzes, constant movement. Like an ant colony, everything has purpose, and repetition builds the system. Step 6 is memory. I turn my notes into flashcards, not random ones, but ones that force me to think. With Anki spaced repetition, the hard stuff shows up more often, right when I'm about to forget it. It's not about memorizing facts once, it's about seeing the same info over time, until it's burned in. I review them daily, even when I'm tired, because consistency turns information into instinct. Step 7 is taking practice exams. I study under pressure, not just to guess, but to learn. Every mistake shows me where I'm weak, and that's gold. By the time the real exam comes, I already know how I'll perform. Step 8 is to relax and reset. 2 days before the exam, I stop pushing. No more cramming, no more panic. I review lightly, but the focus shifts. To sleep, to food, to breathe, and have fun. Because performance isn't what you know, it's how calm you are when it counts. I go for walks, get sunlight, maybe journal a bit. It's about shifting out of fight or flight and into trust. At that point, I know the work's been done. Now I just have to show up. So I just wanted to talk about the steps of the system a little bit more in depth. So for step 1, study the exam objectives. The biggest point here is to ensure that you're spending most of your time on the portion of the exam that's weighted the heaviest. So if there's a portion for an exam that, is 26%, spend most of your time on that 26%. That doesn't mean to neglect the rest of the exam. That just means spend your time on what's more important. So for step 2, research what actually works. So whenever I go to study for a new exam, I go to Reddit, Discord, talk to friends who've passed the exam, and ask them, hey, what resources did you use to pass the exam? Typically, you'll find a pattern, and you can just copy and paste their resources into your resources, and just use that to kind of give yourself that confidence that you're not just wasting your time on, resources that aren't as high quality or you just aren't sure are going to help you pass. So for step 3, book the exam date. So I love to book the exam date as soon as I decide I'm going to go for exam, because that forces me to stick to a schedule and make sure I'm not wasting my time or procrastinating. Now, how far to book your exam date, that's going to depend on person to person. If it's an exam where you feel like you already have an experience in and you just want to get out the way, maybe do it for a month. But if it's a huge exam like the OSCP, I gave myself 6 months to study for that. So for when you're going to book the exam, it depends on person to person. And for step 4, your focus tools, I love green tea just because it's a nice, clean, stable energy. It doesn't give me caffeinate it all up and then a crash like caffeine does. You use what works for you. If caffeine works for you, caffeine works for you. I just use green tea to use green tea. And for my other tools, the 2 biggest things here is Pomodoro and using some type of lo-fi beats or science-backed audio to help you study. For me, that's Brain FM, but I know that's a paid tool and not everyone can afford that. So pick what works for you. There's alpha beats, there's brown noise, there's audios out there that help you focus. Just for me, I use Brain FM. Use what works for you. And moving on to step 5, mind maps and active recall. So when I'm studying and I'm putting these notes down, I'm not just paraphrasing or just putting word for word what I'm reading. I like to put that in a system, whether it be a mind map, so you have the core idea and then the ideas branching off of that. And I love to, whenever I'm done reading a page or watching a video, I love to give myself mini quizzes after each one, because that way you're forcing your brain to do active recall, and instead of just reading the information and regurgitating it and feeling like you're learning when you're really not, this way when you're doing active recall, you're actually training your brain to remember as opposed to just writing things down. And then on top of that, as soon as I'm done, moving on to step 6, I use Anki for spatial repetition. So after I get the key concepts of the ideas and whatever I'm studying, I turn them into flashcards. And the good thing about Anki is that it uses that spatial repetition to constantly challenge you on what you need to focus on and what you don't need to focus on. It's science-based and it works. And then the next step is to simulate the real exam. So typically 2 weeks out to 3 weeks out of the actual exam date, I like to train myself on the actual exam. Not to see what I'm good at, really to see what I need to improve on. So it's not to see if I'm ready for the exam or not, it's to see what portions of the exam I need to work on the most. So on to step 8, rest and reset. The point of this step is to just relax. You've done the work. It's just time to focus on sleep, recovery, and just enjoying yourself again. Like I said, you've already done the work. 2 to 3 days of heavy cramming isn't gonna help you. Getting good sleep, good nutrition, and just spending quality time with yourself and friends is gonna be much more important than just cramming it out for the exam. That's it, that's the system. Simple, repeatable, proven. If you want to use it, I put the full breakdown into a free guide. No fluff, no catch. Links in the description. And if you're prepping right now, drop the cert you're working on in the comments. I'd love to cheer you on. Thanks. Can't wait to see you again.